What's up, travelers? I hope you're having a good one. So today, this little astrological videos on how to read the planetary transits, and especially through the houses. Because as I was walking from the grocery store today, I was trying to think of how this Mars transit was happening to me. Because yesterday was really like the point on which like Mars returned exactly where it was at my birth. But at the same time, my own Mars is at the end of the first house. So now it has just stepped into the second house. So I was trying to figure out how that worked, and I guess I don't know. I was like, I could make a video about this. So without further ado, let's just jump in, right? So Mars I'm gonna use myself as an example because today the sun is sextile Jupiter, so we could use our solar identity to get this knowledge known and how it relates to everything. And at the same time, this sun is making a trine to Saturn. And it's really making like a grand trine with Uranus anyway. So this is what it is. So as Mars was in my first house, the first house is all about the self. So the first house is really about how you integrate the energy that's in there within yourself. It's also a quick burst of energy. So as Mars was in my first house, it was really about integrating things of Mars in my personality. And even before that, as it was transiting my 12th house, it was about the dissolution of everything that I didn't need, that I had accumulated in this Mars cycle. So everything is a succession of the others. So let's start with the 12th house. The 12th house is always about letting go. It's about seeing what's in the subconscious. It's about really putting the watery depths up to the surface of our understanding. As you're going further in the 12th house, you're getting farther and farther away from the ascendant because you're all around the cycle, but at the same time you're closing the cycle. So everything that you've accumulated through the last cycle is bringing it to an end in the 12th house. And as much as it is really far away from your ascendant, from your actual perspective, from the actual things that you see in the first place, as much as it's far away from that, it's also getting really closer. So it's really about living what's in the subconscious so that once it steps into the first house, you could actually integrate it in yourself. Then I had to deal with Mars in the first house. So that was really about integrating the lessons of the last cycle, integrating the Martian energy in myself. It's really pushing it and really making yourself live it all at once, just so you could really intensely see what it's about and how you really relate to it. Now it's stepped into the second house, and I like it because the first house, Mars is in my first house on my natal chart, so naturally I'm a really Martian person. I really, as much as I'm watery, because my ascendant is Cancer, even though my Mars is in the first in Leo. So even though I can be watery, I can really be explosive in a sense. I can really be hard-headed, and people see intentions in me. People see my sexuality. People see anger. If I act like I'm angry, people won't believe me when I tell them it was a joke. It's like, no, dude, you were really no. I wasn't angry. It's just I know how to use the Martian energy as part of my personality, but I like when it steps into the second house, because when something steps into the second house, it's really about how you could integrate what you got in the first house of the self, and how you could really build the foundation upon it. And when Mars steps into the second house is also the house of resources, right? So it's really about laying the foundation and getting into action with the resources you have, or seeing what you have and what you can do with it. That's with Mars in the second, but the second is really about resources and foundations, right? So I really like that because it's a more grounded energy for Mars. Even though Mars feels at home in the first house, because first house is linked to Aries, so it's linked with the energy of Mars. When it steps into the second, it's all about harmonizing what was in the self and building a sense of value to these Martian things. So it brings a certain grounding that I appreciate. Now, I I was like, I was wondering if Mars was gonna go retrograde um, from the second to the third, because I know Mars sometimes goes retrograde in Leo. Like my own Mars is retrograde in Leo. So I looked, and I mean, you could go on planetarium.org or .com if you want to actually see like a birth chart which you can move. But this is a pay-in application called Solar Fire Gold if you can actually buy it. But you know, so I kind of looked, blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, is Mars going to go? Is it going to come back? And I kind of saw that Mars was just going to go and step into like in the second and then in the third. You know, it wasn't going to go retrograde until a while. So I was like, okay, so I'm really in the moment where I lay the foundation. So if Mars was to step back in my first house, it would have told me while forecasting that like, hey, I'm laying some foundations there, but I'm gonna notice maybe some flaws or something, or there's an energy that's going to make this Mars come back to my first. So I'm gonna see something in the foundation that needs rethinking as I pull it back in my first house and reintegrate it in myself. But right now it's gonna step into the second house. I'm not gonna speak too much about like the signs because I don't want to speak about my chart too much. I don't want people to know it too much. That's my Mercury in the 8th. But at the same time, it's mainly about the houses, you know. So once it steps into the third house, it's really going to be how you could use your mental and abstract almost ideas to see the flip side of your foundation. How you could really relate on an intellectual level to what's around you, you know. How you could use this Mars energy intellectually, maybe. Now, because just change the energy of Mars with whatever planet you want to see the energy of, and you're gonna see it, you know. So this is the chart of today. So once it steps into the third, it's really about seeing the flip side of things, you know, because third house is linked to Gemini, really relating it to others. Once you've integrated it in the self in the first, and even dissolved what you didn't want in the 12th, integrated the pure energy in the first, laid a foundation in the second, saw the flip side of the physical and tangible foundation that you laid in the third. Now it's about how you relate and how you could create a space where you feel safe in the fourth house, how you could relate emotionally to the rest of the energy, how you could really use I'm trying to remember the example that because I was walking in from the grocery store like, oh yeah, the fourth house is gonna be the the fourth house is really about how you could use this energy to kind of move the energetic, emotional, tidal, and psychic waves around. You know, how you could relate to others, and how you could integrate this energy and how you relate emotionally and how you feel nurtured and how you feel at home with that energy. So that's really the fourth house. Once all these energies from the first to the fourth are taken into consideration, it's going to step into my fifth house. So fifth house is all about how you're able to really put this energy in the spotlight, how you're able to really create from this energy. Now, of course, Mars deals a lot with creation when it's dealing with Venus especially, but the fifth house is a lot about how you could use this energy that you feel at home with from the fourth, that you saw the flip side of, that you laid the foundation of, and that how is linked to yourself in the first, second, so in the fifth, it's really how you could create something out of that understanding, something that really relates to you, that you understand the mental, emotional, and foundation aspects of. Once you're done with the fifth house, and remember, it can step into a house and go back into the other, so you can kind of do some forecasting with that. Once it steps into the sixth house, it's really how you could use this creation, how you could use all the understanding of the other houses, kind of like as a routine or as a tangible, practical method of doing things, perhaps. So you could go as and act as a service for others. Perhaps you could know how it really relates to others on an earthy level. Perhaps even it's going to tell you health problems, because once you're at the sixth house, you aren't in the upper cadron, am I using the right terminology? I don't know. Once you step into the 7th house, it's really in the upper part of the chart. So everything that deals under it is kind of like, it goes from 1st to 6th, and when it goes to 6th, it's a process of purification before it starts dealing with the other houses, mostly the houses that deal with other people and the spiritual houses, if you want. Not to say that the other houses aren't spiritual, but I'm mixing different programs right there. But anyway, so the 6th house is really, it could show you health problems because it shows you the flaws and what you didn't want to fully purify in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th house. It deals with really a process of being critical, analytical about it, seeing how it could be how you could remove that part from yourself and use it to be of service to others. Once it steps into the 7th house, I'm guessing it deals with the other person. It deals how you could use this energy in your one-on-one relationship, because you've understood how it relates to yourself in the 1st, the foundation in the 2nd, the flip side of things in the 3rd, the emotional side of things in the 4th, the 5th. In the 5th house, you learn how to create from it and how to put it in the spotlight, and then from the 6th you learn what to purify, perhaps because it was in the spotlight, because it was given attention to. So now you know how to purify that thing. Now that it's in the 7th, you're able to really relate that onto others. Maybe you haven't purified everything, so you're projecting something on someone through the 7th house when this energy is there. So perhaps the deal is also to be able to integrate it with yourself, because the 7th house is opposite to the 1st house. All right? So once you've kind of like dealt with the other, knew how to integrate that energy with the other, now it goes into the 8th. You saw how it related to the other. You saw what needed to be purified. Now it's hidden in the 8th, right? It deals with understanding really the hidden side of things. You saw how it related to others. You know how it's supposed to be purified. You know how it's supposed to be in a spotlight. You know how you relate emotionally to it. You know the flip side and the intellectual side of things about it, and you know your personality according to that thing. Once it's in the 8th, it's really it's hidden more from the world, and it's more about this process of transformation, right? It could also deal with since it's opposite to the 2nd house, and the 2nd house is your foundation. It deals with the foundation of other people, or what's hidden from yourself, because people are going to show their 1st house. So you're going to see the 7th, like people are going to show their personality. But to know their own foundation of things is things of the 8th house, which is opposite to the 2nd, which really, once you see their foundation, you can really see what they are about, and this 8th house is a lot dealing with like the psychic things, and seeing behind the filters and being able to really transform yourself from what you see behind the filters. Now, once you've seen behind the filters, it goes up into the 9th house. So the 9th house is eye up in the sky, it's kind of like where we look at the medium coeli, which separates the 9th and the 10th, is really like almost like the apex in the sky, if you want. I think it is that. I need to purify perhaps my understanding, but I think it's kind of like the north point almost, or it's the highest point in the sky. So the 9th house, really, once you've seen the foundation of things, unknown of others, and once you've seen this turmoil or whatever, and once you've kind of like went through the process of transformation, when you learned how to really assess your own personality, that of others, your own foundation, and that of others. Now it's all about higher learning. It kind of comes with an optimism, kind of comes with an actual ease to learn, because you've seen the foundation, you've seen how it relates to you, you've seen how it relates to others. So now you're all about the quest, and you want to expand with the understanding that you've understood. So as things are traveling there, let's say this is a far away place for now, since my Mars is just in the 2nd for this cycle, because I've done this cycle many times, right? Mars is about a 2-year cycle. So once it's going to be in the 9th, I could say that I will be about really seeing the broader perspective of the Martian energy, being able to use this sexual or warrior or male energy in a way that can kind of like put a light on something, or I will be able to really expand on what it means and how I could use it to further my journey into consciousness, right? When it steps into the 10th house, now it's like you've understood how to expand on stuff. You went through the house of like the teacher student. Now it's more about the status, and it's how you could create something tangible from all that understanding that you went from the first up to the 9th, up to the 10th. Now it's the structure of things. 10th house is also beside the medium coeli, so it's a spot we clearly see in the sky. You know, it's the farthest reaching spot, kinda. Capricorn, which is the goat climbing to the top, deals with the 10th house, which really the structure of the higher learning, the structure of the foundation of others, the structure of the other's personality. So I'm going through the houses again. The structure of the routine and practicality and the purification that you've done, the structure of the spotlight, the structure of the emotional relativeness of whatever the planet or energy that you're focusing on. The structure of the flip side of things and intellectual aspects of the 3rd house, the structure of your foundation and the structure of your personality. Once you've taken all those houses into consideration, you're in the 10th house. Every time I talk about Capricorn in the 10th house, there's some fucking police sirens. Anyway, those power structures, right? So once you've dealt with the first, all these things, you're ready to integrate it into your status, into your structure that people see, into a tangible material thing, up in the cycle. Anyway, so once you're in the 11th, you've understood the tangible structure that you show, your status. Now you know how to relate to things far away, to concepts that are beyond your physical understanding, because the 11th house is linked to Aquarius. So you know really how to speak with people from all around the world through instruments. You know how to use instruments to get messages or to communicate, to relate in a sort of global sense. It could be a telescope to look at a planet. It could be the internet to share your thing because you've understood the structure, the higher, but it deals with something that you kind of go through an instrument or something far away to really reach. That's my own understanding, at least, of the 11th house. So once you've done that, okay, let's just do a last recap before we go again in the 12th house. So once you've really understood how the energy related to your first house, so your personality, actually I have a mouse. I'm like pointing on the screen like you can see, really. So, once you've understood the personality that you had, its foundations, the flip side of the energy, how you relate emotionally to the energy, how you're able to use this energy to feel at home, or how your people emotionally even relate to it, how your family even relates to it. Because, it has many layers. I'm just giving you some simple keys there. How it relates to the spotlight, how you could create from that energy, how you purify it, how it's dealing with others, how other people's foundations are linked to it, the higher learning, the fucking status that it puts you in, or that it gives you, and how you could relate all that understanding and all that status to people far away. That's one way of seeing it. Now it's all about the 12th house. So the energy starts being more dormant. And things of the subconscious will pop out. And this is when the karmic work is doing itself, right? So once it goes in the 12th, it goes back in the 1st. And the 1st descendant is the point between the 12th and the 1st. So it's the middle point between the subconscious and the conscious self. So it's integrated back into your personality. And then the whole cycle starts again. I hope that could have been of help. I did learn some things as I was actually mentioning the different houses and stuff. I'm teaching myself at the same time. Yeah, that's what it is. Have a good one. Where's the button? See ya.